The next topic that I want to bring up is Wake Forest versus Vanderbilt coming up next week. And look, I don't want to talk about the big games. I want to talk about these games that I still think matters. And one of those games is Wake Forest versus Vanderbilt. But why is it Vanderbilt? Some of you might not know this, but Vanderbilt right now is leading in points in the entire SEC. Yes, they've had 2 games, but also they put up, I think, 63 against a pretty bad Hawaii team. So I think they got 63 on them, and then after that, the next week, they played Elon. Because Vanderbilt has already had 2 games. They played a game the weekend before just about everybody else did. This week, they put up 42 against Elon. Offensively wise, that is pretty good. That's telling of the best offense they've had since in about 7 years. 7 or so years. Back when they made a few bowl games. Now defensively, they let Hawaii put up 10 on them. They let Elon put up 31 on them. What does that mean for them going into this Wake Forest game? It means that this Commodore team is probably the best Commodore team they've had and going on a decade now, which, look, for Vanderbilt, that still isn't much compared to the rest of college football. However, the bottom of the SEC is not the same as the bottom of other conferences. If you look at the bottom of the SEC, who's there? It's usually Vanderbilt. It's usually maybe Missouri, Kentucky before they started getting better, and then some years like South Carolina, Arkansas, some years before they started to get a lot of traction recently. Look, this year's SEC, all of it is stacked. And if you don't believe that, you probably need to go look at the rosters. You need to go look at their past recruiting classes. You need to look at this last week. The only team that lost was LSU against a pretty good FSU team. And they lost by 1 point. 1969 was the last time Vanderbilt put up more than 63 points on any team. Defensively against Elon, they were struggling. But going into this Wake Forest game, Vanderbilt has a way of sneaking up on teams. If you've watched any other SEC team other than Alabama and Georgia, every now and then, Vanderbilt wins games that they shouldn't win. Or they get games pretty close. And that's because whenever you go into a Vanderbilt game, they sneak up on you. Whenever they have a good team, they will sneak up on you. They will win games they shouldn't win. In the minds of people who don't look at a lot of the smaller going-ons at smaller teams, they just have a way of sneaking up on you. Consistently, they still get 4 stars some years in the recruiting classes. Who else at the very bottom, or consistently at the very bottom of their conference, gets still 4 stars consistently every few years? It's just Vanderbilt. It's just Vanderbilt. Even in the Big Ten, You don't have that level at the very bottom. Going into this Wake Forest game, that Wake Forest team is still good. Giving you a hypothesis, what if Vanderbilt makes that game close? They still might go down the AP poll. They might. But what if they sneak up on a team and they win that? Because this is probably the best Vanderbilt team in maybe a decade. Or maybe a little bit less than a decade, because before that they were making some bowl games within the last decade there for a little bit. But if you're a Wake Forest fan, maybe don't sleep on this game. Don't just think it's going to be a gimme. Because even though they're ranked 22nd, I think right now, that might have just been a week 1, or I don't know what they are week 2 now. But 22nd going in, pay attention to that game. Because if anybody's going to put a hard upset this week, I think it's going to be Vanderbilt and Wake. I do. Because this, even though they're still at the bottom of the SEC, they're not. That does not mean they're anywhere near the bottom at Division I football. They're not. Vanderbilt, going into the season, a lot of people had Vanderbilt ranked as between 100 and 120 in all of FBS out of all the teams. That's just not the case. They could easily be above 60, the 60 best team in FBS. And yeah, what is that? Half? However, that's the bottom of the SEC. And a team like that, if you don't look towards this week and you look on towards the next week or the next 2 weeks, they will sneak up on you. Because yes, some teams in FBS, they do not go week to week. Because a win is not a win in college football. They're not all even. So, just food for thought. Watch the Vanderbilt Wake Forest game. Because if there was one upset that's going to come out of nowhere, I think it's going to be that game. So, Wake Forest might be heading into trouble. But, like I said, this entire show I want to be food for thought. Let me know what you think about all of this, about the possible future for the Pac-12. Let me know what team you think might represent the Pac-12 in the college football playoff now. And also, tell me if you agree with the Vanderbilt versus Wake situation. Because I might not watch the game, but I'll have it on a tab, and I might check in on it every now and then in the background. Like I was saying, this is all new for me, so if you enjoy this week of this show, please consider subscribing, of course, because I'm going to do these for each weekend. I've never posted anything college football related. It's a big passion of mine. I've watched college football since I've played myself in high school, so about 7 years since then. I know that the other content on this channel is not college football. It's just my weird meme music, so just take it how you wish. However, I would appreciate if you did subscribe and tune in each week if you are a fan of college football. And if you're now just tuning in, you're some random person that was going through YouTube looking for either Pac-12 content or Wake Forest content, or maybe even Vanderbilt content, who knows, and you just happen to see this video, consider sticking around a bit, because I do want this to be a unique experience to other college football shows. And it does let my sports journalism side kind of flourish a little bit. If you have stuck through this for whatever reason, consider subscribing, and thank you for watching. I'll see you next week. Bye.